From 1969 to 1980, Colombian serial killer Pedro Lopez raped and murdered up to 300 children, gone in a storm of horror no one saw coming. And then, he vanished. No trial could keep him, no prison strong enough. Today, no one knows where Pedro Lopez is, and that may be the most terrifying part of all.
Hello, viewers. Today, we dive into the darkness, into a story so monstrous it defies belief. A man who preyed on the most innocent, children, hundreds of them. From 1969 to 1980, Colombian serial killer Pedro Lopez unleashed a reign of terror, claiming up to 300 young lives. Some moments came fast, a blur of horror and fear. Others dragged slow, suffocating in despair. And when it was over, he disappeared. No one knows where he is, even now. And that is the most chilling truth of all. Without further delay, let's begin unraveling this disturbing story.
During the late 1970s, young girls began vanishing across Peru, their disappearances barely noticed, as many were street children or members of indigenous tribes. But everything changed when a group of Ayachuco's villagers witnessed the near abduction of a 9-year-old girl. Her would-be captor was Pedro Lopez. Instead of handing him to the police, the tribe beat him, stripped him naked, and began burying him alive, determined to let him die slowly in the earth. He would have perished there if not for an American missionary who stumbled upon the scene and convinced them to turn him over to authorities. However, the local authorities never took Pedro Lopez into custody. Instead, they expelled him from the country, leaving him free to roam the streets of other South American nations, free to hunt, to abduct, and, as the world would later learn, to brutally rape and murder as many as 300 children. In 1980, Lopez was finally captured in Ecuador and charged for his unimaginable crimes. Yet, justice was shallow. He was sentenced to only 16 years in prison. Even more disturbing, he was released early in 1994 for so-called good behavior. Soon after, he was arrested again as an illegal immigrant, only to be deported back to Colombia, where he was placed in a psychiatric hospital. Surprisingly, Pedro Lopez was eventually declared sane and released once more in 1998. The last time anyone saw him was in 1999. Soon after, suspicions arose that he had committed more murders, but to this day, no one has been able to track down the elusive monster of the Andes.
Pedro Lopez was born on October 8, 1948, in Santa Isabel, Colombia. His father died about 6 months before he was born, a member of a right-wing party killed during La Violencia, a brutal 10-year civil war between Colombia's conservatives and liberals that raged from 1948 to 1958. According to Britannica, La Violencia claimed more than 200,000 lives. The conflict grew especially violent under the reign of Laureano Gomez, a fascist leader who sought authoritarian control, only to be toppled by a military coup. Even after the fighting subsided, the war left a deep and lasting impact on every part of Colombian society, including the economy.
Amidst the turmoil of La Violencia, Pedro Lopez, the 7th of 13 children, grew up in poverty and chaos. Despite these harsh conditions, he was known as a kind and polite child who dreamed of becoming a teacher. Yet beneath this hopeful exterior, Lopez later revealed that his mother was abusive toward him. He also disclosed that she was a sex worker who endured frequent abuse from her clients, adding further darkness to his troubled upbringing. Accounts differ on why Lopez left home as a child. Some say his mother threw him out at just 8 years old after catching him behaving inappropriately toward one of his sisters. Others claim he simply ran away. Whatever the truth, his path led to Bogotá, Colombia's capital, a city where he quickly vanished into the shadows of the streets, surviving among other homeless children. Like many in his situation, he drifted into gang life, drawn into drugs and petty crime. Lopez would later recall one night when a man offered him warmth and shelter, a gesture that turned to horror when the man assaulted him. When he was 10 years old, Lopez met an elderly couple who offered to give him a home and enrolled him at a school for orphan children. Unfortunately, Lopez's chance at a better life was once again destroyed when at age 12 he was molested by one of the school's teachers. He promptly ran away from the school and went back to living on the streets. By this point, Lopez was broken, yet hardened, and he began to speak often of getting revenge for the pain that he had suffered as a child.
In 1969, Pedro Lopez was arrested for auto theft and sentenced to 7 years in prison. While incarcerated, he was sexually assaulted by several inmates. In response, Lopez retaliated by slitting their throats with a makeshift knife. For these killings, he reportedly received an additional 2 years added to his sentence. Upon his release from prison in 1978, Pedro Lopez traveled to Peru, carrying with him a newly acquired thirst for blood. He harbored an intense hatred for his mother, and by extension for women in general, fueled by a porn addiction that twisted his perception of them, according to La Vanguardia. Yet rather than targeting adult women, Lopez focused his violence on the most vulnerable, young girls in the Ayacucho region of Peru, whom he began to kidnap and murder.
Lopez later explained that he started by abducting girls from the nearby indigenous communities, especially those in the more remote areas. He offered the young children gifts if they came along with him, specifically targeting the ones with a certain look of innocence.
After luring a victim away from her loved ones and local community, Lopez explained, "I would take her to a secret hideaway where prepared graves waited. I cuddled them and then raped them at sunrise." Lopez took a disturbing satisfaction in seeing a certain light fade from his victims' eyes, but his cruelty did not end with their deaths. He would desecrate their bodies before hiding or burying them, only to move on to his next victim. He also mentioned that he avoided kidnapping or killing white girls because their parents were too watchful. During this time in Peru, Lopez later claimed to have murdered more than 100 girls aged 9 to 12, a horrific spree that earned him the chilling nickname Monster of the Andes. His killing spree finally came to an end when a group of Ayacucho's indigenous people caught him trying to abduct a 9-year-old girl from their community. "Indigenous people in Peru had me tied up and buried in sand up to my neck when they discovered what I had done to their daughters," Lopez recalled of his near-death experience. "They had put syrup on me, planning to let ants consume me. But an American missionary woman happened to pass by in her Jeep and promised to hand me over to the police." The Ayacuchos reluctantly agreed to let the woman take Lopez to the authorities, dug him up, and returned his belongings. However, some accounts say she never actually handed him over to the police. Others claim he was handed over, but managed to escape while being transferred to Ecuador. Regardless of the details, Lopez was once again free, and his violent crimes continued.
In the late 1970s and into 1980, an increasing number of young girls vanished as Pedro Lopez expanded his horrific spree into Colombia and Ecuador. Without bodies to find, many police officers initially believed these disappearances were linked to human trafficking or children running away, not a serial killer. But everything changed in 1979, when a flash flood in Ambato, Ecuador uncovered the bodies of 4 young girls, forcing authorities to face a terrifying new reality. The discovery sent shockwaves through the community, but it was the sighting of Lopez leading a 10-year-old girl away just days later that truly connected the dots. Police acted swiftly, capturing Lopez. An undercover investigator posing as his cellmate soon gained his trust, and Lopez confessed to the brutal rapes and murders he had committed. He led authorities to a mass burial site containing 53 bodies. Months later, Lopez claimed responsibility for over 300 victims, though experts believe the true number may be closer to 70. In 1980, Pedro Lopez was convicted of murdering 110 people and sentenced to the maximum prison term allowed under Ecuadorian law at the time, just 16 years. Shockingly, he was released 2 years early in 1994 for good behavior and deported back to Colombia. There, although he was expected to face the firing squad for his crimes committed in his home country, prosecutors were unable to build a case against him.
A judge declared Lopez insane and ordered him to be placed in a psychiatric hospital. Yet, in 1998, the hospital unexpectedly declared him sane and released him. He was supposed to report to the police monthly, but never did. Just a few years later, in 2002, Interpol issued a warrant for his arrest linked to a new murder case. The last time Lopez was seen in public was in 1999, renewing his citizenship card in Bogotá.
Viewers, this was the chilling story of Pedro Lopez, the monster of the Andes, a darkness that still haunts the shadows, with a fate unknown and a trail of unspeakable horror left behind. What are your thoughts on this chilling story? Share your opinions in the comments below. We'd love to know how you feel about these shocking events. If this chilling story gripped you, like, share, and subscribe for more true crime cases that peel back the darkest layers of history. And remember, if you or someone you know is struggling with heavy thoughts, reach out to a mental health professional. Your life and well-being are far more important than any story we cover here. Take care, and until next time, another haunting case awaits.